Hey everybody, and welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? Yes, unfortunately, another week, still no skyscraper. We do have it recorded, and I just need to edit it, but due to my film schedule and how much longer the pieces can take, I sadly will not be able to get to it for the Monday release, so I wanted to make sure you aren't out in the woods left to hang, but we do have some interesting news that has come in recently about our favorite season, Adam Sandler. But before we get into that news story, we just wanted to kind of go over some of the choices that have been thrown out for season 3, give you a little hint of what might be to come. One person that's been thrown around, you may have heard, Jackie Chan, a very wild film collection and sort of follows the original model of this series expressed through Adam Sandler is pretty good movies at the beginning, very questionable choices towards the end. How did we get here? Basically Hong Kong, pretty good movies he's got going there. And then he comes here. Some movies are fun, but then you get other things. The Tuxedo, Around the World in 80 Days. What have we done there? That could be interesting to explore. Some of the cons on that are, it might be hard to find a lot of those earlier films of his. So that's something worth thinking about. One of my always go-to choices of Robin Williams also had sort of a similar fate, really funny or interesting or heartfelt movies at the beginning, and then at the end it was like RV, something about motorcycles that I always think is Wild Hogs, but then Joe has to correct me that that's a different type of the same movie. Flubber's in there, I guess, right? When we could finish the Jumanji trilogy too. That might be nice. Other pros in that, he cannot make any more movies. So once the season's done, we don't have to keep up with him. Other cons though, I will be sad. We'll be sad that he is no longer with us, as he has brought joy to so many people, myself and Joe included. Another one that sort of always gets thrown around each season, but I don't think we'll ever do just because of how much of a meme it already is. Not sure if I'm using that word right. Nick Cage. We all know the weird and varied acting life he has had. It just feels like low-hanging fruit. I don't know if that's one we would ever do. But people have always suggested it in between each seasons. I don't think we'll be going down that road. Sorry to disappoint all of you out there. Another one that Joe has sort of been pushing since the Hillbilly movie came out, Ron Howard, the first director in the series that we could do, a man who made very sort of famous films for a while and now has done like Weird Moby Dick and that movie about racing cars. And I guess now this Hillbilly movie, but Joe kind of liked it. The cons of doing him are, one, since he's a director, it's a little harder to kind of actively talk about him for most non-cinesta viewers, for people that just have thoughts about what The Rock or Adam Sandler is doing. They don't always have opinions about what the director is doing with the creative process. Another con is I don't want to watch any of his movies because they are so boring. Another idea thrown around, Billy Bob Thornton. I think this came from sort of Joe's love of Bad Santa, which was a fun movie. Certainly some odd choices through his career, although we did just watch Faster. I don't know if we could do that again. Some cons of that are, I don't know how many fans there are. I don't know how many people are going out to be like, yes, I want to see the new Billy Bob Thornton pick. Another interesting idea that was thrown around, Jennifer Aniston. We also got Margot Robbie a few times. The problem with both of those actresses are there aren't enough in their filmography. If Margot Robbie starts to make more questionable choices, certainly an actress we can look at. It seems like she won't be unemployed for very long. And that usually means at some point they're going to have some movies that don't do well at the box office. It's just a law of numbers. Jennifer Aniston would actually be one I'd be very interested in following. I think she is the most talented of the Friend actors, and she had some slightly interesting movies when she first started breaking out into features during the late 90s, early 2000s. But just unfortunately hasn't done enough. I hope she gets to do more. I would like to do kind of a season on her at some point. One I've been pushing for a while, but I think ultimately is another one we'll never do, is Godzilla. Especially it's on my mind since this Godzilla vs. Kong release. I have a lot of thoughts on that. But again, sadly, that's another one where there's already so many podcasts about him. I just think that there's already sort of a dearth of content out there. Maybe at some point we can get to it, but I don't think it will be a priority in the future. One I had thought about would be like Matthew Broderick, because again, sort of in the 80s, he's kind of America's darling, and then afterwards kind of became weird, creepy old man. But Joe has told me some not so savory stories about him, so I don't know if we want to actively promote him. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of ideas that we do have out there. It might be one of those, despite some of the cons I've been talking about, but there's a chance that it could be somebody we haven't mentioned yet. A lot of names have been swirling around this season. A lot of former guests we've had on have had ideas for who we could do next. It's been very interesting to kind of consider some of these people that we haven't thought of or kind of forgotten about, which kind of makes them fair game for this podcast. But we'll be able to reveal that to you very soon, as we only have, I think, two or three of these left. So it looks like, sometime in May, we will finally get to begin our long-awaited Season 3 and finally have escaped Dwayne The Rock Johnson. All right, but now on to our Sandler watch. Lev, cue the bump. Sandler watch. So some really wild news came out this week in the Sandlerverse. We just have to talk about it now. The fourth film of the Hotel Transylvania series, called Hotel Transylvania Transformia, and it was confirmed that it will be the final film of the series. Thank goodness. The weirdest development of this is that Adam Sandler will not be the voice of Dracula for reasons I don't understand. Because all the other people look like they're all coming back. Catherine Hahn, Steve Buscemi, David Spade. Keegan-Michael Key, who actually replaced somebody that was in the first movie, I think. I think The Mummy was played by a different guy in the first movie, and then they got Keegan-Michael Key to be him. The guy to replace Adam Sandler is, his name is Brian Hull, who seems to have voiced Adam Sandler's character in all of the non-movie stuff. The stuff where he'd be too expensive to bring in. So I'm just confused why, it can't be that he's too expensive here, because these movies always make $500 million. You should be able to afford Adam Sandler there. I don't know if Adam Sandler's too busy doing other things, but then again, it's just voice acting. If he had to, he could do it from his home. You could go in and do it in 1 or 2 days. I would be surprised if he couldn't find the time to do that. I know he's working on 2 other movies, but also the movie was supposed to have come out already. It was supposed to have come out in April of 2020 somehow. So it was mostly pre-pandemic. A lot of those voices might have been recorded, or maybe they saved all the voices for later. But if you're animating a film, that seems like an odd choice to do. So I don't know what might be happening here. We're going to try to dig in and find out what we can. I'm assured that once the film gets closer and closer to release, there'll be a lot more articles and interviews as we try to figure out why this has happened, and we can give you this. Speaking of Hotel Transylvania 4's release, here is some really odd stuff about it. It was scheduled originally to be released December 22nd of 2021. So this winter, but then for somehow it was pushed to April of 2020. It was somehow thought, we overestimated how much time we need. We actually will need 20 months less than we thought, which seems a crazy number. But then it got pushed back again to August of 2021, and then to bend a little back to April, and now it's going to be July 23rd. 2021. So I don't know what's happening here. We hope to have more information of that. Talking about this movie and all the news surrounding it would be in a Sandler Watch segment. Because Adam Sandler's not in the movie, we're not going to cover it for this podcast. Sorry for all of you Hotel Transylvania fans out there. But just like with this new Fast and the Furious movie, if the people aren't in it, we're just staying out of it. We might discuss it a little bit in a Sandler Watch Rock Watch segment, as I mentioned, but it won't be a full-on episode by itself. And then yesterday, a little more odd news happened. Talented actress Carey Mulligan will now join Adam Sandler in his weird space Netflix movie. It's called Spaceman. We talked about it very briefly when the news was first announced after it was greenlit. It seems like it's going to be one of his dramatic roles, and I can only imagine it's better than whatever that James Gray space movie I just watched last year was with Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. Not a great movie. Sorry, Joe. Shots fired. So that's just a little bit update on The Sandman. There's that one and a basketball movie, which I think is also for Netflix, that he's like co-producing with LeBron James. I think he's also in it. We'll definitely be able to do those movies for Adam Sandler when it comes out. A weird pandemic year where neither Adam Sandler nor The Rock have been able to release films. Although I guess Sandler had Hubie Halloween sort of at the midpoint of the pandemic. So, okay, we got one from him, but The Rock obviously wasn't filming anything. So it let us catch up on both of these guys a little sooner than we expected. We are very excited for season 3. I hope that you will enjoy whoever that focus is. I promise you, it's a real treat. And thank you all for tuning in to this very abbreviated episode, and we hope that you'll enjoy Skyscraper. I have not one but 2 very interesting guests for that one. So from the Quixotic United West Studios, I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at quixoticunited.com and social media, presumably with a similar sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight. Good night. Testing the mic. It's a good mic. My levels are doing the things I need them to do. Shooby-dooby-dooby-doo-doo. Speaking of Hotel Transylvania 4's releases, speaking of Hotel Transylvania